Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Welcome into Missing the Point. This is actually episode 100, but we have a big old celebration planned for you all later. I am Michael Marcangelo, joined by the real BK Bob Kelly. And it was Patriots off week, which means that this is going to be a very Cowboy-centric podcast. Bobby, how are you? And what were your takeaways from the week of football?
I'm good. As everyone here knows, new dad. So I'm a little tired, but I'm good. I'm here.
I think we're all pretty tired.
Yeah, that's a fact. Little inside joke for everyone out there. So I listen, I'm very happy the Cowboys won this week. We really took control of that division. It's ours for 100, pretty much 100%. If we win this week, and I think any of the NFC East teams lose, we clinch that division. However, as good as that defense was, as amazing as the D-line was, I need to start off with negative and just what the hell is going on with this offense, man? It is driving me nuts. The Cowboys had a 24-0 lead going into the half, and I was thinking blowout city, Central. I told you guys that. I was like, listen, the blowout is on tap. Get it ready. That's not how that second half went. Dak Prescott just looked lost in that second half, man. He did everything he could to try and give the football team that game. That pick six in the fourth quarter was the most inexcusable rookie throw. And he's what, a fifth-year pro now?
But in Dak's defense, the D-line, the defensive lineman was midair, so he blocked the linebacker that was spying. Like you still can't make that throw, though.
In that situation, right? You can't make that throw over the middle like that. You're just begging for someone to jump into the lane of that pass and pick it off. You know what I mean? Probably 6 out of 10 times, if there's a decent linebacker there, a decent safety lurking, he's going to make a play on that ball. It's just in the fourth quarter, when you're up, I think we were up 14 at that point, you can't make that throw. You cannot get that aggressive. Another thing that drove me a little crazy is the play calling. I got to say, I'm so sick of 3rd and 9 screen passes. I feel like I'm watching goddamn Josh McDaniels be the offensive coordinator for this team. It's driving me crazy, man. But I don't want to get too negative about it.
Well, hold on. Before you get positive, can I chime in with my negatives?
Yeah.
I do. And I say this because there have been a couple of wins this year that Patriot fans have celebrated, and you yourself have said, yeah, that's not a really good win. It's a W, but it's an ugly win. This was an ugly win. Mm-hmm. Let's just go over the fact that the Dallas point totals: first quarter 18 points, second quarter 6 points, third quarter 3, fourth nothing. They let the football team of Washington walk right back into that game with Kyle Allen looking like an actual pro quarterback in the fourth quarter. I think a couple of things that stand out. If you look at like the dog days of Green Bay, when McCarthy was still there, where the offense looked just like one dimensional, it was seam routes, out route, maybe like a hitch. That's what you're seeing in Dallas. Except he should not be ruining Dak Prescott right now. Dak is everything that you say that he is and more. But when you look at his stats for the week, 22 of 39 for 211 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 picks. That's atrocious. And they are the front runner in that division. They should blow out. And now I know, Ron Rivera has that team coached up pretty well. They do the Washington does fare pretty well against good teams, especially when they are the underdog.
They're frisky for sure.
And divisional games are always close. But the hallmark of a championship team, and you've said this before, is you beat the teams that you're supposed to handily.
Yep. That
did not happen this week. So it was like a cardiac. I mean, it was a cardiac episode in the fourth quarter. You got to win. I get it. 9-4. That's awesome. But I walk as an objective football fan when it comes to the Cowboys and not the Patriots. I walk out of this game and say, you were lucky to get out of it. Let's hope that they learned from that and they don't just say, well, we won. A win's a win.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. The hallmark, like we've always said, hallmark of championship teams is the first thing, like you just said, is beating teams you should beat, and you beat them well. You look like you're a better team than them. The other thing is when a team is down, you take your foot and you put it on their throat, and you don't let them get back up. Those two things are so concerning. So the biggest thing you remember at the beginning of the season with this team was like, I was like, this seems different. This seems like a team that does handle business. This seems like a team, because that's what they were doing. They're playing crappy teams. They beat the absolute shit out of them. They're playing good teams, and when they had them down, they put their foot on their throat and they kept them down. You look at the Patriots game, that we were very resilient in that game. We came back. There was a lot of things that were encouraging. You look at the Giants game, we smoked them when we should have. You looked at the Chargers game, we took care of business. The Panthers took care of business. Second half of the season has been a completely different story, man. You look at the Raiders game, 36 points to a team that hasn't even scored 13 points since. You look at this past game where we were up 24-0 and win 30-23. Like it's just, or what was 27-20? 27-20, yeah, 27-20. It's just these things that keep rearing their ugly head. That's been things that have been driving me crazy about this team for 5-10 years. It just seems like they cannot go away. We can't do it. We can't get rid of it. We can't.
So, I mean, over the last 5 or 10 years, right? Like this isn't the same coach. The Clapper's gone. So what is it? What is it about when, and it's not all the time, like I'm not shitting on the Cowboys, right? But there are some games when they do get off to that early lead that they do let the pedal off, they do let their foot off the gas. As the resident, Cowboys fan, why? Like, what is the reoccurring pattern here, and how do they fix it?
So in past years it was a defense, but that's not the thing this year. Past years, we would get very lackadaisical on defense. We would stop blitzing. We would stop doing the things that were going well, and the game script would just flip. That's what happened year in and year out. Now what's happening is it's inexplicable, honestly, and it's not something I'd ever thought I'd say. But that offense just gets so stagnant, man. And it seems like every time we get the ball, it's third and long before we even realize it. You know what I mean? It's all of a sudden, it's 2 shitty run plays, 3rd and 9, Dak makes a crappy pass, we're punting the ball, and they have the ball back. It just seems like that's when we get into that let's control the ball mindset, we don't have the run game that we used to. And all of a sudden, Dak's not making those same throws that he was making at the beginning of the year. And all of a sudden, the team's back in the game.
Are you, sorry to interrupt you, are you worried about Zeke? I asked that because this is the 3rd game in a row where he's averaging less than 4 yards a carry. So yes. Mr. 3-point whatever seems to be rearing his ugly head.
Yeah, no, I'm worried about Zeke. The only thing that makes me not worry is that I think Tony Pollard is an excellent running back. I do think that they are trying to keep Zeke fresh and healthy. The offensive line isn't doing him much favor, but at the same time, listen, if people are saying that Zeke is still Zeke that we knew, they're absolutely kidding themselves, because he's clearly not the Ezekiel Elliot that he was 2-3 years ago. He doesn't have the same burst. He doesn't have the same impact on the game on a game-to-game basis. He's pretty much in there now as a power running back who's really good at pass blocking. He's not that same, let's get Zeke the ball 25 to 30 times a game, and he's going to dominate. That's not even a semblance of a conversation anymore. Now is just, let's get him through healthy, because I feel like he's more of like a leadership impact on this team at this point, because I honestly believe, and I've been saying it all year, my other buddy who's a Cowboy said, Tony Pollard's a better running back at this point than Ezekiel Elliott. I feel more confidence when they hand the ball off to Tony Pollard than I do when they hand the ball off to Zeke. I have to say.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Do you think he's better, or do you think he looks better because he's different? Right. I think you're right. They're trying to fit Zeke into this power back role, when the thing that made Zeke so unbelievable was his ability to cut and then explode.
Yeah.
And it feels like they're taking away his ability to cut. It's just run right up the middle. That's really not what he's good at. It's not his strength. He's better than I am, sure, but like that's not his strength, right? It's you let him go out there and you design those stretch plays or those off tackle plays to let him get in space and then make somebody miss. And then because he has flashes where
every once in a while, yeah.
Like when he does have those 23 carries in a game, 6 of them, you're like, man, is he still so good? But when they limit him to 12 or 13 carries and it's all the same power running up the middle, that's not him. He's not Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not. I have noticed that too. They're using him more as a first and second down back rather than what he used to be, where he's great at catching the ball out of the backfield. He's great at, like you said, those one cut runs. Especially when we have run the counter, we'll bring the guard around to that, bro. Yeah, all day, and that's just not the case anymore. So yeah, I am worried, but at the same time, I'm not, because I think Tony Pollard is the guy that's going to get us there. I'm more worried about Pollard's injury and how that affects our explosiveness than about Zeke. Zeke's there. He's a great pass blocker now. Like I said, he's just not that explosive running back anymore. The reason that I'm not worried, though, let me get to it, is this goddamn defensive line, man. I have never seen a Cowboys defensive line play like this. All right. You look at, so let's see here. That defensive line, Dan Quinn must have been absolutely salivating at the mouth, because first of all, we took Antonio Gibson, who had been averaging 89 yards a game the past 3 weeks, about 6 missed tackles. He had about 315 plus yards runs a game. Against the Cowboys, 36 yards, 2 yards after contact, only 1 missed tackle all game, and not 1 run of more than 15 yards. I give all the credit to that healthy defensive line. Plus, Neville Gallimore had a sack. DeMarcus Lawrence had a sack. Randy Gregory had an amazing interception. Micah Parsons, who might be one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. I know it's early. I know. But my God, I have never seen a guy have a big of an impact, at least on the Cowboys. All right, I'll preface this. Never seen a guy have that big of an impact on the defensive side of the ball in the Cowboys. Every single game, this guy does something to turn the tide of the game. It's every single time. I just think when you think back to past teams that are modeled around that defensive line, I think we're just as good of a defensive line as those Giants teams that gave the Patriots fits all those years. I think this defensive line, once it gets into the playoffs, will be able to make some noise, and we're going to stop some very decent quarterbacks because they're not going to be able to throw the goddamn ball. You know what I mean? And when they do, they're going to be forcing it into Trevon Diggs. So I really think this defense, if the Cowboys offense can play ball control football, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's wild to me. But I actually think that this defense can carry us into the playoffs and carry us far, because it's absurd how good that D-line is right now, man. Absurd.
2 uncalled for shots at Patriots and Patriot fans. This episode already. Already, we've been here for 10 minutes.
I ranked them number 1. All right, I got to get my shots in,
no, big market tease. But you pointed out their
last week.
You pointed out their loss to the Cowboys. You said the Giants fan that they gave us fits. Great. What I will say is this defense is, is it Micah or I think is it Micah or Mika? Micah Parsons, right?
Mika's from Road Trip, not Road Trip, Euro Trip.
I think he is the most impactful rookie on the defensive side of the ball since JJ Watt. I think that's fair to say. I think you just have to scheme for just him, and when you do that, you compromise yourself against, DeMarcus Lawrence. And then if you try and throw the ball. Then you have Trayvon Diggs, who my favorite part about him is he will take risks. And he's going to lose, 30% of the time. But man, like those other 70%, when he knows he has you and it looks like there's all this leeway, then all of a sudden he either breaks up the pass, picks it off, or knocks it out of your hand. It's like, man, like that he's skilled. Your biggest deficiency, let's just call it what it is your coach. It is. The man only won one with arguably one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time in Green Bay. And now he's running the risk of just shut up, dude. Like we're going to win. Just shut your fat mouth. Stop talking. Let your players go out there and play. And you have there's literally only been 3 coaches in the last 10 years that I believe have less of an impact on the actual team, but he's one of them. I hate him. I think Dan Quinn should be your head coach moving forward. And I think he knows enough to say, listen, I'm not an offensive guru. Let's bring in someone that can manage Dak in the run game and the pass game. He won't screw it up, and that defense will still be, what it is right now. I mean, they went from the absolute worst defense in the league to now they will win you games, and they'll win you more often than they won't. So
they just won us the game. The 100% that game is accredited to that defense. Without that fumble recovery for a touchdown, without the sacks, without the fumble at the end of the game, who knows? Maybe Washington goes right down the field and ties that game if we don't force that fumble at the end. So 100% they won us this game. I do want to, before we move on to anything else, I do want to talk about Micah Parsons real quick, because this guy, listen, when I compare him to some of the best defensive players in the game or some of the best defensive seasons we've seen over the last 10 years, it's actually comparable when you look at what this guy is doing. Right now, he's averaging almost 5 pressures per game. In the 2016 Khalil Mack season, which we all see as one of the best defensive seasons we've ever seen, he averaged 6 pressures a game. Micah Parsons is averaging 6 tackles a game. Khalil Mack had 3 tackles a game that season. Micah Parsons is forcing a quarter of a fumble. So he's forcing a fumble every 4 games, which is right on par with that Mack season. Right on par with the 2018 Aaron Donald season. It's just what he's doing as a rookie is so absurd, because he absolutely already is a top 5 to 10 defensive player in the league.
Yep.
As a rookie. So I have to say, I've never been happier to be wrong about a pick in my entire life, because I'm sure you guys remember, I wanted Surtain bad. I wanted him. And yes, he's awesome, but my God, he is not Dak Prescott, or not Micah Parsons. Not even close to Micah Parsons.
I mean, that's why like having a linebacker or someone like Micah Parsons, that he makes your secondary better, because he forces throws under duress, which, again, I can get on board. You have less of a sales pitch to make to me for him being Rookie of the Year or whatever award you want to give him than you did last year for Peyton Pritchard. So like, I'm on board. I'm
I love my rookies, bro.
Yeah, I know. I'm on board with that.
Okay.
So 27-20, Dallas over the football team. They Cowboys go to 9-4, 5-2 away. Washington 6-7. Again, they're that purgatory, right? They are 1 or 2 players. Chase Young being hurt that does not help, but they are either a star quarterback or a one more star defensive player away from being a 10-7, 11-6 team.
So here's a question: If Fitz doesn't get hurt, because remember they started the season with Ryan Fitzpatrick as their starting quarterback. Is it about the same with Heineke? Heineke hasn't been that bad, right? I think it's about the same with Fitz than it was with Heineke, right?
So I think it's probably the same. The difference is Ryan Fitzpatrick will put you in bad positions because he thinks he can overcome them. Heineke, due to his inexperience, might not know that it's a bad one and might get you in trouble. But I think, if you call everything even, he's better with the football. He's more protective, and He's faster. I think his arm's better. I think he's the guy that you want, that you'd rather go with. But, I don't know that he's a top 10. I hope that in 10 years we can reference back to this and I'm wrong. But I think Taylor Heineke might just turn out to be, like an Andy Dalton or John Kitna or something like that, where he's good, but he's just not good enough to get you to the next tier.
Fair enough.
Other games that happened over the weekend that I think are noteworthy. I think we need to talk about the Ravens and the Browns. There's no chronological order here that we're going. But, the Ravens, obviously, they needed a win. Things are not going their way in this game, especially with the injury to Lamar. They were positioned from a standing standpoint as one of the top two teams in the AFC. And they lose 24-22 to the Cleveland Browns. And I think that this is more of an instance where the Ravens lost more than the Browns win. Although, a win's a win. I think Baker, he put his team in an okay position to win. He didn't really kill them. But Lamar Jackson goes down after going 4 for 4 for 17 yards. Tyler Huntley comes in, and honestly, he looked pretty good. He was not the reason why they lost that game. So my question to you would be, regardless of, I know that you're going to factor Lamar Jackson being injured as a reason as to why the Ravens aren't good anymore. Whereas I would say that it's probably more of a positive in the grand scheme of things. What happened to the Ravens, and does this win propel the Browns to taking a hold of that division?
So what happened to the Ravens is I think they're kind of fraudulent, man. I've thought this all season. If you look at their wins, they have at least 3 to 4 wins that they had no business winning the games. There's been multiple times where they're down 2-3 scores, and that's when they turn it on. They come back, make that comeback, and they come back and win the game. And I just don't think that that's a recipe to be a successful football team. It never has been, never will be. Listen, the Cowboys tried it for years. Ask Tony Romo. It never works out. I also think that Lamar, listen, man, I love Lamar Jackson. I think he is a all-pro athlete. Yep. I don't think he's an all-pro quarterback. I don't. And he does have games where he makes amazing throws, where he's very consistent and on point 100% of the time. But he also has games, listen, he got hurt, so we can't rag on him too much for this game. But last game, he had 4 interceptions, man. Game before that, he missed some big wide open throws. So it's not the fact that I don't think he's a great athlete. I just don't know if he's consistent enough at the quarterback position to bring you to a title. I really don't. And I think when you look at how they looked without Lamar, listen, Tyler Huntley's not anything to write home about either, but I didn't see much of a difference between Tyler Huntley Ravens and the Lamar Jackson Ravens. And this even goes back to 2-3 weeks ago against the Bears. That Ravens team wasn't bad. They beat the Bears without Lamar Jackson. And the 2 games since then that Lamar has played, they're 0-2. And Lamar had 4 interceptions in one of them. So I just think, listen, I'm not saying Huntley should play over Lamar. I just think when you look at it, you need to temper your expectations from Lamar moving forward, because I don't know if he's ever going to be that quarterback who's going to be able to beat you with his arm. Granted, his legs are better than 99% of the legs out there. He can beat you with his legs.
What do we know about Lamar Jackson, right? Like, as you just said, he's an all-world talent. And he's one of the fastest, quickest men I've ever seen on a football field. But when is the last time that skill set at the quarterback position won a Super Bowl? Never, right? And yeah, I know. Like, I'm the guy that's been preaching since the inception of this show, so over 100 episodes now, that says the reason, like, the best player on a Super Bowl winning team cannot be a running back. So if your predominant skill set is that you are an elusive, rushing quarterback, that applies to you. You can't. Now, they could have a stacked defense and they can win. That's fine. But what we've seen over every single playoff game that Lamar has is those teams have an answer for him when it comes to running the ball. They make him throw. And 6 out of 10 times, he can't make that throw. So what do you do? I mean, the Ravens are in a really interesting position, I think, right? Because let's say that Lamar comes back, he plays really well, they go to the playoffs, and then they lose the first game, and Lamar puts up a stat line like he will, like he has in the past of 17 for 38 for 195 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick with 60 yards rushing. What do you do? Do you bank on him? Is he the guy that you build your team around? And is that skill set the type that you build your team around, or do you make a move? Like, my hot take is, it's not that. I mean, if you've been listening, it's not that hot of a take. They will never win a championship because of Lamar at quarterback, and I don't think he will be worth the money that he will be asking when he becomes a free agent.
That's when it's going to happen. Is that free agent year? I don't know what's his contract looking right now. I do know that I think you're completely right. I don't think he'll ever be the reason they win a Super Bowl.
I mean, he might win one.
He might win one. Yeah, I agree. He might win one, but I don't think it would be because of him. I think it would be more of like I don't want to compare him to Peyton, but it'd be more of like a Peyton where he gets carried there by his defense. He'll make a few plays to get him there, but he won't be the primary reason. I completely agree with that. Lamar Jackson's contract currently, typed in stats. I agree that I don't think he's going to be worth the money that 4-year, won't become a free agent until 2023. So 2 years. Yeah. So let's put it this way. If they go 2 more years, right, with this same trend where they fall behind in games, they need Lamar to save them. He does sometimes, but sometimes he's garbage. He can't win those primetime games. We go through this same thing for the next 2 years.
What do you do?
You can't re-sign him. You can't, because he's going to be asking at least.
Yeah, I was going to say 30, 35 million a year.
Right. Maybe even more, because Dak's what, 36 a year?
Yep.
So he's going to be asking probably 40. You can't pay Lamar Jackson $40 million to be your quarterback. I love him, but that takes away from so many other aspects of your team. Yeah, you can't do that. You cannot pay this guy $40 million. I don't know what else will be out there is the thing, though. That's when it comes to quarterbacks. Is like, is it worth it? No. Is there an option out there that's more worth it? That's the question.
Yeah, well, when you say more worth it, I mean, I think if you can spend $6 million a year on a quarterback, like again, not him per se, but like a Tyler Huntley, as opposed to a $40 million a year on Lamar Jackson, and then spend elsewhere. I think you have to. I think that you have to think long and hard about that. I think the biggest thing whenever we see like a backup quarterback come in, right? It's okay. So everyone has their go-to. How do they react to a new quarterback? Mark Andrews, 11 catches, 115 yards and a touchdown, 8 of which came from Huntley. Rashard Bateman, 7 catches, 100 yards. You got Marquise Brown, 5 catches. So he spread the ball around. And oh, by the way, he's pretty accurate, 27 of 38 for 270. And he's a backup. So what that tells me is, again, I think Lamar is a world-class athlete. I think he's a generational talent. But we've seen this before. I don't think he's the exception to the rule. Now, on the flip side, you have the Cleveland Browns eking out a victory over their division rival to move to 7-6. Baker doesn't play great, doesn't play horrible. The Cleveland could not run the ball, but the Ravens have a really good rush defense. What's going on with the Browns? I guess, in your opinion, was this game just a tale of two teams that don't really have a great or definitive direction?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. I do know Baker's hurt, so I know a lot of people have been ragging on Baker this season. Listen, I really just think they just feel like Baker's the better option, even with I think it's a torn shoulder muscle. Even with that injury, he's still a better option than Case Keenum as their quarterback. So
Sure.
I'm not going to put too much on Baker for the struggle so far this year. I do think that Cleveland, when they're healthy, they can be one of the more dangerous teams in the NFL because of that run game that they have. Because they have two running backs who are legitimately possibly top 10 running backs in the league. They have a great defense. I just don't know what's wrong with them this year. I really don't. 7-6, they're one spot out of the playoffs. And I do think that Stefanski's a great coach too. So I like Cleveland better than I like Baltimore. If you were to ask me right now, make me put money on who's winning that division, I think I would take Cleveland over Baltimore. Because if you look at who Baltimore has next, they have Green Bay. No chance they're beating Green Bay, in my opinion. Not a chance in hell. Cleveland has Las Vegas. We don't know what Las Vegas team is going to show up. Is it the team that put 36 on the Cowboys? Probably not, because that team's not showing up again. I think Cleveland's going to take over that division lead this week. I do. And I think that's it for Baltimore. Here's a question for you. Baltimore doesn't make the playoffs. How about it's not on the hot seat, right? He's there. Okay.
No. Yeah. I think he is a top 5, top 3 coach in the NFL. If you just look at what he's done with that team since he took over, different quarterbacks, they had to change over their entire defense, overhaul their entire offense, and they're always in consideration at the end. That's really all that you can do and all that you can want. And the biggest thing I'll say about Harbaugh, which scares me the most as a Patriot fan, is that man is fearless. He does not care who you are, what you've done. He knows at any given time, he can get his team to walk into your stadium and beat the ever-loving bag off of you. And there just aren't a lot of coaches in the league still that can do that.
Agreed. I like Harbaugh. I also like how his reckless confidence, where he doesn't give a damn what the situation is. He trusts. So that's the thing with Lamar, is he does trust Lamar more than anything. You know what I mean? Like 4th and 1, biggest situation of the game, that 2-point conversion, he looks right at Lamar and says, what do you want to do? You want to go for it? Let's go. And it goes from there, which is something that, that kind of chemistry between a quarterback and a coach, that just takes time to develop, and they definitely have it there. But yeah, no, I just don't believe in Baltimore this year. I don't. There's so many games where you're watching it and you're like, what the hell is wrong with this team?
Yeah.
They're so bad. And then they end up winning it. So I just don't know. Against a good team like the Patriots, or against a good team like the Packers or the Chiefs, I don't see Baltimore hanging in there like that.
Cam Newton and the Patriots beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens last year. So that's all you need to know about that. What I will ask, my question to you would be, that faith and that belief that that NFL films and the media is just projecting about Harbaugh to Lamar. Do you think that is because of the narrative out there that Lamar cannot win them a game or a playoff game or a Super Bowl?
So you think he's overcompensating?
Yeah, in a situation, I think the coach has to be the guy to say, like, this doesn't make the most sense to do this. Instead of saying, what do you want to do? We'll do it. You know what I mean?
That's true. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, no, that's a very good possibility. I like that. Do you think that's an actual thing?
I think that Harbaugh is a wise enough coach in 2021 to know that it's hard for a player of Lamar's stature to not hear what's being said about him. So he combats that with, this is your offense. We will do whatever you think is right.
You're my guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, he's attaching his name to living and dying by Lamar, which is noble. I think that's great. But I have to wonder, like, we never saw this with Flacco, right? Harbaugh made the decision and that was it. Now It's like, oh, there's this narrative that maybe Lamar can't win you a game or like a playoff game. Maybe, it's this, maybe it's that. And all we see is, I trust him, whatever he wants to do. It feels like it's a little bit of an overcompensation, but I don't know that.
Kind of like the Cam Newton Bill thing. I love Cam Newton. Hardest worker in the building.
Yep. Just like Chad Ochocinco back in 2011, right? Just such a great player in practice. Can't fucking line up in a game, but he's so good in practice, man. Like, just hard worker.
I like it.
Can we talk now about the game that I think at the beginning of it, we were all like, yeah, like it's bad. And then it became a game at the end, the Buccaneers and the Bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Buccaneers, they held on, 33 to 27. They let up a monstrous fourth quarter push to tie that game at 27. But then if you give Brady the ball in overtime, again, 8 times out of 10, we know what's going to happen. I think Brady at 44 to go 31 of 46 for 363 and 2 touchdowns, no picks. Oh, and by the way, 7 carries for 16 yards in that game. Like, it's unbelievable what he continues to do. And if you look at and if you just look at the receivers, 5 receivers had more than 3 catches. He's still doing what we all thought he was going to do, and he's still the same player that he was 10 years ago. Some might say that he's better. But let's talk before we get into the Brady, filleting of the show.
The weekly ritual.
Yeah, now they fought towards the end, and that's commendable. Is it wrong of me to think that the Bills might be a little broken? Like, no. It just seems like the beginning of the game, they're down what? They're down 24-3, and they made a comeback. That's it. It's commendable. But I don't know, man. Like, that coach, I think he's so rattled by the fact that he is not looked at the same way that Bill is, or Andy Reid or other coaches in the league. And then Josh Allen, again, $1 million arm. But sometimes he makes really bad decisions. And that defense, I'm sorry, it's not that good. It's not. The Patriots run 43 out of 49 total offensive plays for 200 rushing yards. And then the next game, you allow Leonard Fournette to rush the ball less than 20 times and gain 113 yards and score a touchdown. What are you doing? So my question to you, Bobby, is it an overreaction for me to believe that the Bills might just be a little broken?
No, I don't think so. I think your Doug McDermott take is right on point when it comes to that coach. I think he's the one that's broken, man. Listen, Josh Allen's great. The defense is really good, or they were really good. They have great weapons on offense. I really think that McDermott is broken. I don't know if you saw him after this game as well, but apparently he was very emotional after this loss. And also, bro, you look at what they did to lose this game. Okay, first of all, you're down 24-3 in the first half. All right. You ran the ball 0 times. All right. Listen, that's not how this works, Mr. McDermott. You don't need to balance out all the runs you faced last week with just all passes this week. That's not the way it works. Second of all, you have 4th and 1 in overtime. What are you doing punting the ball back to Tom Brady? Are you out of your goddamn... Do you actually think that you are going to stop Tom Brady when all he needs is a field goal in overtime? Like, that's actually what he was thinking in his head. Is like, all right, you know what? We'll punt this ball back to Tom Brady. We'll stop Tom Brady, and then we'll win bro. No, that will never work in the history of Tom Brady's career. It has never been a good idea. Give this man the ball back, especially when he is 33-3 lifetime against your team. He dominates the Bills. You don't think when Tom Brady was getting that ball back, he wasn't like, all right, here we go. Guaranteed. all the Bucks fans were thinking, all right, thank you, Mr. McDermott, for that W. So it's just, I do think McDermott is broken, bro. I think that is a fact. And Belichick did it. It's just absurd to me how many teams Bill Belichick really has broken, how many players he's broken. He broke Zach Wilson. He broke
he broke Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold,
that's what I meant. And Zach Wilson, maybe.
The thing about it is, though, the Bills ran it pretty well. Now, the condition there is that Josh Allen was their leading rusher, 12 carries, 109 yards. But every other rusher for the Bills averaged more than 4 yards a carry. Devin Singletary, 4 rushes for 52 yards. And they just wouldn't do it. They just would not commit to the run. So, I mean, this team goes from being 7-4 to now they're 7-6, and they're fighting for a playoff spot, maybe.
They got to play the Packers this week, too.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought you just said that
Baltimore plays Packers. You're right. I lied.
Yeah.
They play. I don't know who they play. But, the Panthers. They play the Panthers this week. They should win. But yeah, no, I agree. They definitely, they're broken, man. There's no doubt about that. Listen, the fact that Josh Allen had over 100 yards against the Bucks this past week, yet barely ran the ball, and 55-mile-an-hour winds the week before is absurd. I don't know. I really feel like it's one of those things where, so I'm going to compare it to fantasy football. We're going to do that for a second.
Yeah,
where you have a guy, right? You don't play him 1 week, and you're like, oh, man, I can't believe I didn't play that guy. You know he's not going to put up that same production the next week. But you put him in your lineup anyways. He ends up getting you 2 points, and you're like, God damn, I knew it. And the next week he has a great matchup. You take him out, and he scores 36 again. That's what I feel like the Bills are doing with Josh Allen, is they're just overreacting to what happened the week before. It's like, you should have done all these things last week. Like, you had a game plan that you should have stuck to the week before, but instead you put it into this game, and it just fucked everything up. I don't know what the hell happened with the Bills, man. I really don't.
I mean, now McDermott's a really good coach. I think he's a really good coach. I do think that his self-worth is a little too high. Like, I get it. Like, you've been there for 5 years. They've been in the playoffs for 3 or 4 of those years. Awesome. First time since 96. You should probably win a Super Bowl before you say, before we give all the credit to Belichick. Like, it's not on him. It's on the players. Oh, because again, not to tout my Patriots footsie pajamas here. That man told you he was going to run the ball up down your throat 44 times. Stop me. And you couldn't do it. And then the next week, they choose to run it 30 times for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, and you couldn't stop it. So I don't know if it's ego, if it's pride, or whatever. But I think he's a really good coach. But he's getting his ass handed to him over the last couple of weeks. Just a fact. I mean, you look at what Indy did to them. I think that was the start of it. That team beat the ever-loving piss out of the Bills, and the Bills are a more skilled team. They should be tougher. Nope, they're not. So, Tom did us the biggest favor that he could do since he took his talents to Tampa. And I mean, he made the road really tough for the Bills. Now, in a couple of weeks, when the Bills come here, they could be fighting for their playoff lives. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how the next 2 meetings with the Bills could determine the division.
Sorry, I just realized something. So the Bills 100%, to go back and definitively answer the question, they're broken. So you look at how they started. They started out this season. Let's see. 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 4-1, and then 5-2 after they beat the Dolphins, right? Yep. Enter November. They play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Lose 9-6. Is that a crazy? What did Rayshawn call it? When it's not the norm.
An aberration.
Thank you. Perfect word. Is that an aberration? Yeah, probably was. Showed it when they beat the Jets the next week. It's not an aberration when you lose 41-15 against the Colts at home.
At home.
Then at home. Then you go ahead and play the Saints. Saints are garbage. You win 31-6. Awesome. Patriots game was next. 14-10. No passes thrown. Then the Bucs game. So in their last 6 games, they have lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, got blown out at home against the Indianapolis Colts, right? Lost at home to the New England Patriots, giving up 2 pass plays all game. And then you fall down 24-3 against the Buccaneers, make that comeback, and end up losing that game anyways. So yes, to answer that question definitively, the Bills are 100% broken. You can't lose 3 games at home after the month of or 2 games at home in the month of November. Also a game to a team who has 2 wins this season, and then also a game that you made a 24-3 point comeback and then punted the ball back to the GOAT in overtime to lose. Yes, they're broken.
So I think that perfectly segues us into the playoff picture in the NFL. I think we learned a little bit, a lot this past week. And again, the Patriots didn't play, but if you're just looking at how each conference is shaping out right now, we have the Patriots at the 1 seed in the AFC, Titans with the 2, Kansas City with the 3, Baltimore with the 4, Chargers 5, Colts 6, Bills clinging on to that 7th. Is that how you see the AFC shaping out, or do you actually believe that either Cleveland or Cincinnati could overtake Baltimore for that spot?
I do. So, Baltimore, right? So I think Cleveland does end up jumping Baltimore to get that playoff spot. I think that happens this week because, like we said, they have the tiebreaker with Baltimore, right? So I do think they end up jumping that this week. The 2 teams I would look out for is Cincinnati and Buffalo. I think it's going to come down to it with those 2 and those last couple playoff spots. I guess Indy too, because they could lose this week to New England.
Indy's in the 6th seed.
Yeah, so I like Cleveland or Cincinnati to overtake Buffalo. Like I said, man, I think that they're absolutely broken. And I also think Baltimore's broken too. I think Baltimore and Buffalo are the 2 teams that are there right now. That I don't think you're going to see them there come the end of the season. Patriots and the Chiefs are the 2 teams that beat in the AFC, right? That's 100% definitive. There's no one I think that compares to those 2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, but the Chiefs are. I mean, if they are what we saw this past week in their 49-8 or 48-9 win over Vegas, then they're the team to beat, because their defense, which was absolutely atrocious in the first 6 weeks, has been lights out relatively speaking since. And there's not any team in the AFC that can get into a pissing contest with them offensively. You can't do that. The Patriots definitely can't. And then, I think the Titans getting healthy right now, that makes things interesting. But only if Tannehill plays like he did last year in the early part of the year, and not like he needs to win you the game. Right now, I think too much is on his plate, and we know what Ryan Tannehill is. I think we all do. Right? He's fine, right? They need help elsewhere. But if Derrick Henry comes back, Tannehill goes back to managing games, higher completion percentage, I think they're a real team to be scared of. But in reality, Bobby, I'm sure you agree. If we're talking about a Chiefs team that can put up 28 points in less than a quarter, I mean, it doesn't matter. It really, to quote the great one, it really doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, agreed. It's scary with the way the Chiefs are looking, man, because right now they're not winning games like we're used to them winning. You know what I mean? That this one this past week was the first game pretty much all season that the Chiefs offense was wow. You know what I mean? That you looked at their offense, you're like, oh man, that's crazy. Before that, man, it was all defense. It was all ball control. And if the Chiefs can win a game by ball control and by shutting the other team out, they're going to be very hard to beat come playoff time. Because if you have to play against a possible ball control offense, but then also have to keep in the back of your head that they could throw 80 yards downfield and put up 48 any given night, but also hold you under 20 points, that's going to be tough to beat, man. It's going to be tough to beat. I think the Pats can do it, though. I have to say, man, over this season, I have gone through a roller coaster with the Patriots because, listen, at the beginning, they looked awful. But in a season where week to week, you do not see teams execute on a week-to-week basis. You do not see teams win on a week-to-week basis. You don't see the same consistency from any of these top teams, except for the New England Patriots. That's why they got my number one last week, is because, listen, man, there's no one in the league that I have more confidence in knowing what is going to be seen that week. Every single week, the Patriots are who they are. Mac Jones is going to have a high completion percentage. Ramondre and Damian Harris are going to shove it down your throat, and the defense is going to do everything they can to stop you and probably succeed. That's what they're going to do every single week. And you know that. You don't know that with the rest of the NFL. Literally, there's not one other team in the league that if you were to make a consistency rankings, I would even come close to putting near New England. Because that's the way they're playing right now, is just consistently solid football. And the only team in the league doing it. So that's why I really do have faith in this Patriots team, man. I do.
I appreciate you saying that. I also hate that you're saying that because I just loved all the hate that you were throwing our way earlier in the year, and now here we are.
Listen, good football is good football, man.
The league is just so stupid, dude. Like there are a couple exceptions to the rule. Yeah, so it's not everybody. But I mean, Belichick, again, I mean, if he's not coach of the year this year, then it's rigged because he should be. He just puts everyone in the position to win. Now, whether they do or not, that's up to them, right? They still have to execute. I get it. But you just look at teams like the Buffalo Bills, like the Cincinnati Bengals, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they just make so many stupid decisions all the time that cost you a game. I think Belichick is famous for saying that before you win a game in the NFL, you just can't lose one. Like that's how he coaches. Don't lose it. And because he knows that if his team, again, 8 times out of 10 makes no mistakes, they're going to win. Always. They're just going to. So it's really good to see. But I think, just the road opening up, I talked about this last time. Like it's ridiculous. I mean, you have one-armed Baker Mayfield. You have no Julio, no Derrick Henry, Tennessee Titans coming in. I mean, the ground is just, or the road's just being paved for the Patriots to make a deep playoff run. I hope they do. But I think it all comes back to coaching. On the NFC side, I know that we want to get to your power rankings. If the season were to end today, here's how the NFC would go. Number 1, Green Bay Packers. Fucking frauds. 2, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3, Cardinals. 4, Cowboys. 5, Rams. 6, Niners. And 7, Washington Football Team. Now, on the fringe at 6 and 7 are the Minnesota Vikings, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Atlanta Falcons, and the New Orleans Saints. So what happens? Is that what we're going to see it towards the end of the year? Or who do you think makes a push, or who falls off a cliff?
I'll tell you what, the difference in the quality of top 5 NFC teams, I'd say are better than the top 5 AFC teams, right? Top to bottom. You look at those 6 and 7 seeds, and it is just a dump off, man. You go from the Rams to San Francisco, Washington, Minnesota, Philadelphia. Let's just put it this way. The fact that Atlanta and New Orleans are both still in prime positions to get into those wild card spots tells you all you need to know about the bottom of the NFC. They're garbage. The bottom of the NFC is absolute garbage, which is why, to me, it's so important for the Cowboys to get out of this goddamn 4th seed, man. So important. Listen, you're telling me I have a chance to play San Francisco, Washington, Minnesota, Philly, Atlanta over the Rams? Are you kidding me? After the way the Rams looked last night, man, that is one team I do not want to see in the playoffs. So I honestly don't give a damn who's in that 6 or 7 spot because they're not going anywhere regardless. And I just want to play one of them. So that's where my NFC playoff picture comes from. I do think if there's one team we're going to catch, though, it's Arizona. We play them once. And honestly, I don't have much faith in Arizona, man. I really don't.
Their coach is better than yours.
He is 100%, but he's not that great. And I just, if there's one team I think that we can catch, it's Arizona. We're not Green Bay and Tampa Bay. Those are 1-2 in the NFC. I do think Green Bay is a little fraudulent. We've talked about this before because of that COVID toe. I had to do it. By the way, that Collinsworth little blip, funniest thing I've ever seen. Or was it Collinsworth?
Oh, it was Joe Buck.
Joe Buck making fun of Aaron Rodgers. One of the best things I've ever seen on live TV. But yeah, I just want to get up into that 3 spot, man.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they're going to go 14-3 or something like that. And they're just going to lose their first game. Like, he will not even worth talking about. Like, I've talked about this way too much. The Cardinals, I think the top 5 teams in the NFC, I think 2 of them are really flawed. And the 2 that are really flawed for me in the top 5 are the Cardinals and are the Packers. I think, overall, the Cowboys are a well-balanced team when they execute, right? I think they're opportunistic on defense, which is something that you can't really plan for. And, at any given time, when Dak is himself, again, he's an MVP. He's an MVP candidate. Tampa Bay, coaching would be their deficiency. Bruce Arians, I like him as a human. I don't think that he's a great coach, but I think that this just proves that if you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, you don't need to be like you don't really need to be that great of a coach. And then the Rams, and that's primarily because I really, really like McVay. I believe that I think he can hold a room. I think he knows how to get his players up. I don't trust Stafford. The man's never won a playoff game. And if you want to pause this for a real quick second and have a good laugh on the air with all of our listeners, why don't you go ahead and Google Matt Stafford's record versus winning teams?
Or he's never, wasn't it above 4 games over 500. He's never won. Not once. Not one game.
Google his record against winning teams.
This is Stafford, bros. Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah. For all of those listening, driving, walking, whatever they're doing, can you please tell us what Matthew Stafford's record versus winning teams is?
So going into last night, the 1-2 record so far this year brought Matthew Stafford's record versus winning teams to a resounding 8-67. And not only that, so to add something else to it, last night against the Arizona Cardinals, Matthew Stafford's been in the league for what, 10 years? 11?
Long time.
Was his first win in his career against the team with 10 wins. In his entire career, first win against a team with 10 wins. So, yeah. Do with that what you want. But
yeah, I mean, like that information's out there for you. That's not again, all world talent, but again, if the Rams win, it's because of their coach. I firmly believe that, and they're fundamentally sound on defense. But yeah, I mean, as a Patriots fan, one last thing before we get to your power rankings, I am not scared of the Green Bay Packers, of the Arizona Cardinals, because Cam Newton and the Patriots beat them last year. I'm not scared of the 49ers. I'm a little intimidated, not intimidated, but it would be a dogfight between the football team and the Patriots. But man, like, I think Dallas and the Patriots, what we saw last time, would probably be something that would happen again. Like those teams, like they'll just play each other really well. Sorry, Bobby. Like, love you, mean it. I can't put into words what a Belichick versus Brady Super Bowl would do for me. Like, there's just not I don't know how to say it or what words would encapsulate it correctly. This is because this is the last year that I could, I say that Brady will probably play till he's 60, but this is the last year that I think that that's actually a possibility. So, if the Cowboys win 3 in a row after this season, fine. Give me Brady versus Belichick in the Super Bowl.
If I lost to Tom Brady, if only thing stopping the Cowboys going to a Super Bowl was Tom Brady, I don't know if I'd be that mad about it, because it would be like, well, fucking Tom Brady, what are you gonna do? Yeah, listen, I would love to see a Brady Belichick Super Bowl. The party and the craziness of that Super Bowl week would just be unlike anything else we've ever seen. It would be Mahomes, Brady multiplied by 50 from last year. It would be absurd. It would be amazing. So I could get down with that. Although I got to say that Cowboys-Patriots game was pretty amazing.
It would make me happy to see the Cowboy. I mean, not happy, but it would be one hell of a story just for us and content purposes. Because as you used to say, you can never have enough of that. If the Cowboys beat Brady to get to the Super Bowl just to lose to Bill, you would lose your fucking mind.
I don't think I would ever be more unhappy about football in my entire life. If the first time the Cowboys got to the Super Bowl,
lose to a rookie,
and the Patriots of all fucking teams, oh my God, bro, I don't even know. I don't even want to talk about that. All right,
let's not talk about it. Let's get to your power. Let's get to your power rankings.
Can't believe you just put that in the universe. I don't like it.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen now. That shit is happening. Just judging by my fandom and how everything goes, that's happening. So okay, power rankings. You know what? I can't believe I'm doing this for the second week in a row.
Oh, least to best.
We're going 10-1. All right,
10-1.
We got the Ravens. Like I said, like we've said all show, I don't believe in this team. I don't think Lamar is the answer. They're here strictly because of where they were in past weeks. We have 10, the Ravens hanging on to that 10th spot. 9, they're back in it this week. They got a good win. I think once their running back and their best player comes back, they could be a completely different team. Tennessee Titans, it's impressive that they are where they are. Number 8, the Chargers. I love Justin Herbert, man. I really do. Like I said, 68 yards on a dime was just one of the best throws I've ever seen. You always have a chance when you have Justin Herbert. Number 8. Number 7, we're dropping a spot. I can't believe I'm doing this after a win. But the 7 is the Cowboys, down from number 6 from last week.
Whoa.
Listen, I love this defense. I love everything about them. That D-line is going to create headaches for a lot of teams. But until we can figure out what the hell is going on with the offense, the teams above them, I can't, in my right mind, as a football fan, put them above them. So I have 7 Cowboys. 6, after last night, loss. They did drop pretty far. But again, teams above them just are looking amazing right now. So I have 6 Cardinals. If Kyler's healthy and that team is healthy, I do think they can make some noise. But let's see what they do against some good teams coming up. 5, Rams. They're just high-powered, man. They got it at wide receiver. They got it on defense. They got it everywhere. So I do like the Rams moving forward. They jumped the Cardinals this past week.
I mean, even though Stafford's 8 and 184 against winning teams, you still like the Rams?
Hey, listen, it's not based off of the 10-year career. This is based off this year and last week. So, yeah, just based off that win, man, they look good. I think OBJ and Stafford do have a good connection going on there. And then you have Cooper Kupp, man. He's impossible to stop. That dude is absurd.
Okay.
He's absolutely absurd. 4, they're back. Best they've looked all season. The Kansas City Chiefs. I believe that's 5 in a row for them now. Six in a row for the Chiefs. So they're definitely back. The NFL needs to be on notice about the Chiefs because they're coming. Number 3, Mr. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They pulled it out against the Bills. Like I said, 33-3 against the Bills career for Brady is just absurd. I love that stat. But I like Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I just think from the overall work that we've seen all season, if you add it all together, the team right above them just been a little bit better all year, and that's the Green Bay Packers. I put them at 2.
Right. Joking.
That's okay. Considering 2 of their losses was week 1 against the Saints, which you can't even really count that at this point, and then the week without Aaron Rodgers. So far this regular season, when Aaron Rodgers has been in there, playing up to his speed, playing the way he should, this team is really friggin' good. Packers number 2. Number 1, second consecutive week, literally because there's no one out there that has done anything that makes me think differently. Usually on bye weeks, I like to jump teams up. But even the teams below them, listen, the Bucs blew a 27-point lead. The Packers had some of the worst special teams I've ever seen in my goddamn life on Sunday football. The Chiefs, listen, the Chiefs, that was 1 week. We don't know what they could be. There's one thing I do know, and that's who the New England Patriots are. They're a good defensive team. They're a team that's going to shove the ball down your throat, and they're a team that's not going to make any mistakes. And right now, that is saying a lot more than the rest of the NFL. So number 1, second straight weeks. I can't believe I'm doing this again. The goddamn New England Patriots. This was supposed to be the rebuild year, man. This is supposed to be the year I was able to shit on you guys. And here we are, the fucking number 1 team in the power rankings.
You started,
Unreal.
I mean, you tried really hard at the first 6 weeks of the year. I mean, you were wearing your hater, you're sipping your Haterade and wearing your Cowboys pajamas. But listen, I think that's a great list. I'm really surprised that the Cowboys are 7th because I think that they are better than a few teams that are above them, regardless of what their record is. But I can't help but love the fact that those Bills are off the list. Bill is above Tom, and it just gives me hope that it is Bill versus Tom in the Super Bowl. One last thing before we sign off, you should all stay tuned in the next few days for our 100th episode celebration. It's going to be something that you're going to want to listen to, that we will talk about all the hits and misses over the first 100 episodes. So really looking forward to getting the whole crew back together. But before we go, Bobby, do you want to say anything?
Just that, I love this every week. I can't believe we've been on it for 100 episodes now. It's unreal to me that we've gotten this far. We haven't killed each other yet, and that people actually still like listening to us. So it's kind of cool. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Shout out to Ray for downloading us in every household in Dorchester. We love you, mean it. And until next week, for Bob Kelly, Craig D'Alessandro, this is Mike Marcangelo saying thank you so much for listening to Missing the Point.
Hey there, fabulous souls. I'm Stephanie Baklaan.
And I'm Eden Alpert.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, Unapologetically Fab.
Get ready to join us on an amazing and real journey as we dive into life after 40 and own it.
We're all about changing the narrative, leaning into who you are, and living a life by your own design.
Join us as we embrace life unapologetically and redefine success.
This is Unapologetically Fab,
an Electric Cat production.
See you there.
Electricast.
Step inside the marketing mirror to uncover marketing secrets, discover gems, tactics, lessons, and campaigns you can use, next gen or fundamentals. Grab the marketing magic to improve your marketing and win more business.
Electricast.